March, in my opinion, is probably the best month of the year to catch the biggest fish of your life. So stick around. I'm going to teach you exactly where to look and how to catch these giant crappie. So what's up, guys? I'm Steven Turner with Crappie Man Jigs. This is going to be a no-edit talking about March and where should you be looking for crappie. You know, no matter if you're in the south or in the north, this video could help you out. Now, I will admit, if you're in the north, you probably want to save this video and watch it next month. So, just to clarify what I'm going to be talking about, I'm talking about 55-degree water up until 65 and 70. If you're anywhere in between that, these tips are good for you. So, March, like I said, in my opinion, probably the best time of year to, if you're a beginner angler, a skilled angler, whatever, you can get out and do what you want to do during this month. Now, what I mean by that is you start to see what I call the crappie circle. And I've talked about this on countless videos in the past, but what I mean, this time of year, you have a lot of set of different kind of fish that's moving in, moving out, going to spawn, staging, pre-spawn, post-spawn, everything in between. So you can kind of pick your poison on how you want to fish. And that's what makes this time of year so special to a lot of you guys watching this video. Because I know a lot of you only fish, you know, for crappie certain months of the year. But in reality, they do bite 365 days a year. So with March, I'm in South Carolina, so my water temps are fluctuating between 53 and 55 at the time of making this video. Now, we do have a lot of warmer weather coming up, so that's going to post it up to about 60. And that's when, in my opinion, it gets where you can do virtually whatever you want. And what I mean by that is if you're fishing a creek channel, which you should be during the spawn, you shouldn't be out on the main lake trying to chase the 8 inchers that was spawned last year or hatched last year. You should be in the creek channels. And you get to pick and choose. So if you're in a creek channel and you've got a bridge leading into this creek channel, all the fish that's come from the main lake have got to go through this bridge. Okay, that is hot spot number one, uno. They're going to post up there, eat shad, whatever, pre-spawn mode, and then they're going to move back to the next piece of structure, which is probably a brush pile. Now, once they get to the brush pile, they're going to chill out there, eat some more shad, you know, go out to the Ryan's buffet, and they're going to sit there and get all fat and sassy. Now, the males are going to move up shallow once that water temperature gets around 60, 65 degrees. You know, not all fish spawn at the same time. So some of them, they're like, oh, it's 60, I'm ready to roll. Let me go find a nice hard spot, fan around, and wait for Big Mama to come up there and do the thing. And then you're going to have the big females that are just going to hang out. And we're going to get burned by lead while we're making a video. Sheesh! Come on. Got it. Sorry. Alright, then you're going to have the big females that are just going to hang out. Now, whether they're at point A at the bridge, point B at the brush pile, or point C, they're in the middle of the creek channel trying to find their male that they want to go up there and lay eggs. Now, the cool thing about this is 90% of us fish in the daytime. I know a lot of people fish at night, but I'm not a night fisherman. But those females are going to be hanging out in that creek channel during the day. You're not going to go up there and catch them up shallow. I don't care if you've caught a 3-4 pounder in 2 inches of water before. It's probably just luck. I'm just saying. Most of the fish you catch when you're beating the bank are going to be males. Males that are making beds, guarding the beds, whatever. So, how do you target these big females, and why does this circle of life, or circle of crappie, was what I'm going to call it, circle of crappie, mean so much? Because you've got the bridge, the brush, and the bank. You're going to have pre-spawn, spawn, and then once they spawn, they're going to go right back to that brush and right back to that bridge. So it becomes a circle of pre-spawn, post-spawn, pre-spawn, post-spawn, spawn, pre-spawns, post-spawn, pre-spawns, post-spawn. So if you like fishing bridges, you could go fish bridges. If you like fishing brush, you can fish brush. Now the brush is only going to be probably 15 feet or less. You know, I would say the majority of the fish are going to be on 10 foot or less brush. Now, this isn't going to be a brush pile like you find in the summer and winter time where there's, you know, 50 to 60 crappie on the brush and you can get a whole limit. Now, these brush are going to be scattered anywhere between just a couple handful of fish on them, and some of them are only going to have a couple of fish on them. So don't get out there and like, oh, I found a brush. Oh, Crappie Man Jig said I could catch them on this brush. Now, you may catch some, you may not. But the fish are going to be in those creeks. Now, if you want to start targeting the bigger females and you do not have forward-facing sonar, the best thing you can do is pull or push. And what I mean by that is pulling jigs behind the boat. You know, you have around 18 to 10 rods hanging out the back of the boat, and you pull jigs. I'm sure there's plenty of videos on YouTube about it. I did a live the other day pulling jigs, and we caught about 60 fish. It's very fun, but if you don't have the setup for it, it's kind of hard to do. Now, another cheap setup that you can do this time of year is called pushing, and that is when you have rod holders in the front. Now, when I used to push, I used to use 4 rod holders, just because it just makes it more simple, and I could cast at the same time towards the bank while I push through the creek channel. These majority of the time I was using minnows on a split shot, just a split shot and a hook and a minnow. Put them out on 10 foot rods in front of the trolling motor and just push through that creek, and I was taking an underspin or a 2-inch jig and throwing it at the bank and winding it until I located some males, and then I would try to capitalize on that set area. But if you have forward-facing sonar, you can go what I call blob hunting, and that's basically you hunt for the biggest fish in that creek and you try to catch it. I want to do a lot more videos on forward-facing sonar. I haven't been able to get out on the lake and do it. I don't believe I can explain it just sitting here talking. I would love to show the screen and actually do it, you know, like not just talking out my butt. So if you just got to pick and choose what part of the circle that you want to actually be a part of. Now, if you want to fish bridges, find the bridge that goes in there. Now, if your creek don't have a bridge, can't really help you there, you know what I mean? But if you like to fish bridges, I would suggest targeting them with smaller bait. Now, this is a 164 wedge tail that I make here at Crappie Man Jigs, and I've got a lot of confidence in wedge tails in the past couple months because I honestly feel like the fish have not seen very many of them. There's not a lot of bait makers that are making wedge tails. You know, all your hand-tied people, they make the hackle, they make the marabou, but there's not a lot of wedge tails out there, and these are perfect for vertical jigging, pulling, casting even. They just have a certain action that is utilized in a plastic jig. Excuse me. They have a certain action that is utilized in a plastic jig with a big tail, but it's a hand tie, so you don't have to fix your jig, you don't have to worry about your jig messing up if you miss a fish, etc. And also another good thing if you're vertical jigging is to just use a smaller plastic. Your 1.5s, your 1.2s are going to work really, really well this time of year, because once we get into the spawn cycle, you're going to have bass spawning, you're going to have everything, and all this fry is going to be everywhere, so they're going to get kind of keyed in on that little bitty bait at the beginning of it. Now, if you're going through the creek channels, what's the best thing I suggest to throw? Probably a 1/16 wedge tail. This is a lot bigger profile than the 164, and also a 2-inch. Let me grab one. The 2-inch OG. Now, this is a bigger profile, especially for those bigger females that are trying to feed up right before they go up there and lay their eggs. Now, if you're beating the bank, hands down, the best bait you can use, it's the most annoying one, is a minnow. You know, I run a jig company. This is how I pay my bills, how I feed my family, and I'm going to sit here and tell you a bucket of minnows and a slip cork is going to catch a lot of fish. But if you don't want to use minnows, like I don't like using minnows because I hate having to stick my hand in the water, and they be dying and everything. The best setup you can honestly run is a slip cork. These are $2 at Walmart for 3 of them. I've got a video explaining how to set up a slip cork on the channel. And with that, you want the most obnoxious, brightest color: orange, pink, chartreuse, white. And you want to run that about, I don't know, half a foot to a foot deep, and throw it down the bank on every piece of visible structure that you can see. And eventually that cork will sink, and once you catch one, you've got to dissect that area that you're in. So I mean, these creek channels, you know, some creek channels run for a couple miles. You've got to figure out that area of the creek that they're in. You know, some creek channels are going to be better than others, 100%. There's more plankton in some creeks, so that's going to be more bait fish in some creeks. So more plankton, more bait fish, more slabs. You know, that's kind of the rule of thumb. You can get on Google Earth or pull up your maps on your electronics and try to find the back of the creek and figure out how big of a creek that is running into the lake. You know, some creeks, they're as wide as this shop, and then some creeks are as wide as a house. So the bigger the creek, the more plankton, the more shad, the more chances you have to find fish. Now, there are certain exceptions to this rule, and that is a lot of crappie fishermen fish out of smaller john boats, and you can't handle bigger creeks when it's windy. Because I mean, March winds, it's 20 mile an hour winds outside now. So in those conditions, you just pick and choose whatever creek that your boat can handle, and you get back in that creek. A lot of the wind's going to be gone. Another factor you've got to pay attention to, we have a creek that I like to fish, and it gets a lot of pressure this time of year. And that can really be make or break for a forward-facing sonar person, because the fish are going to be definitely afraid of your boat. They're going to run when you get within 15 feet from them. So you have to do a lot of casting if you have a creek that has a lot of activity in it, which I mean, it's fine. You slap on a 116, a 124, put your forward range out to about 40 to 50 feet and just cast to the bigger blobs, and you'll get a nice mess of fish. You're not going to be able to drop on their head like I like to do with the 12 to 13 foot rods. As far as beating the bank, slip cork, number 1 bait, whether you use a jig or a minnow. But you can also use a underspin, which, if you don't know what an underspin is basically a jig head with a blade attached to it. This is a 116 one I make here at Crappie Man Jigs. And the way to fish that is to throw beside cover. You don't want to throw in cover because you got an exposed hook and you will get hung. But that blade and the bright colors, if there's a male up there guarding fry, protecting a bed, he will definitely thump the crap out of it. So that's the thing with fishing the bank. That's why everybody likes fishing the bank. If there's a male on a bed there, 90% of the time you're going to catch it. Those males don't give a crap what you throw. It don't matter what color, what size, whatever. You know, I can give you all the tips in the world. But if he's there and he can feel that bait, see that bait, he will attack it. That's why I suggest the bigger 2-inch, 2.5 inch even. I don't sell a 2.5, but a 2-inch bait that is brighter will have more vibration. His lateral line is going to pick it up a lot better than a smaller bait. But you can get bit on smaller baits if you like throwing smaller baits. Personally, I like throwing a 1.5 up shallow just because I don't like it hung that much. So a smaller hook is a little bit nice. So after learning all that, if you're still in this video, I mean, I don't blame you if you ain't made it this far. I'm just talking. But after all that, you've got to figure out what part of the circle that you enjoy doing. You have until the water temp really gets to about 75 to 78 degrees. And even after that, you can find males up shallow protecting the fry. Now, like I said, you're going to have pre and post, and the spawn. And then the ones that spawn are going to be pre and post. I hope that makes sense. Like, if you have a circle, every one of those fish is going to complete a lap. You know, they're running track at high school or something. You know, they've got to complete this lap, and then they go to their summer. Like they roll up in the creek. Well, it's time for PE, and then they complete this lap. They're gonna hang out on the bridge, hang out on the next piece of structure, hang out on the next piece of structure, hang out on the next piece of structure. Oh, the water's warm enough. Let's go make a bed. The female's going to sit out in the creek channel, and at nighttime she's going to pull up there and drop her eggs, pull back to the creek channel, hang out, hang out, hang out, pull up the next night, drop some more eggs, and she's going to repeat that until she's done dropping eggs. Then she's going to move out to the creek channel, and then she's going to go back to that structure, back to the structure, and back to the bridge, and then back to where she came from. And that's March fishing. What rods would I recommend? ACC Crappie Sticks, 7 foot for casting. That is an amazing rod, super sensitive. I've boat flipped, I don't know, 10 or 15 two plus pounders with that rod, no problem. If you're live scoping, a 10-foot rod is great for casting, just, you know, in general. 13 foot, 15 foot ACCs are phenomenal for dropping on their head if you have dirty water. Slip court, I do recommend the 2-piece 8-foot rod for a slip court. That is an amazing rod for cast distance and flexibility on how you're fishing. So, but if you enjoyed the video, let me know down below. Like I said, I'm not editing nothing in this video. I'm literally just talking to you. The only thing I'm going to do is put a thumbnail on it. So, if you enjoyed the video, like the video, subscribe if you haven't. I'm trying to teach the world how to catch a crappie. So join the adventure and stay slabby.